course, feudalism, you see, that's a very interesting notion which the middle class has suddenly latched on to. Of course, we've had a feudal tradition. We've had a strong landowning class. There's no doubt about that. I'm not going to sit and deny that. But kindly understand that over the years, those institutions have also diluted. And the problem now is that feudalism is no longer an institution, it's an attitude. The military is as feudal as is a middle class party called the MQM. The use of authority, the use of oppression, the use of force is the same. You talk about feudalism. I have seen ordinary soldiers working on the lands of big generals. This is precisely what the lord of the manor does, the feudal does, the landowner does, the people around him. And why I say the landowner feudalism is kind of diluting, because in North and Central and South Punjab in particular, the nature of relationship between though that the person who owns the land and who tills the land has systematically and gradually changed. In majority of cases, it's no longer sharecropping. It is rent and cash, which means it's a contractual relationship. It would dilute further. And to answer you, very briefly, I think with all the problems that we have, the only method of fighting the problems is to have the political process. It needs to go on. That is what I was referring to when I said that there is a local culture as well, which is very cognizant of of political values, which is very cognizant and of democracy, importance of it. People will punish, people will push out the leaders they do not want, the leaders who do not deliver. People do not want a top-down system. We've just started it. We've been in transition for many years. 1990s, political parties were never given that option. I may not like political parties, but the thing is that is the only option that we have. That's how people will get the leadership they want.
I will only make one comment, that is, you compared the soldier working at the general's residence or whatever, that you have to join the army for at least 2 months, I would suggest, to really understand.
But I was there for a year and a half.
Can we move on to the next question?
You will take it understand the structure of the army and its working.
There it is.
Well, whatever has been the past, we had unfortunately a very long history of military dictatorship, which was probably because of the lack of guts by our local Pakistani politicians, their corruption, like Zardari and Nawaz Sharif and all that stuff, and before them several others. I think military came in because there was no other person to properly handle the country. Everybody was opportunist, and whether they are Islamic parties or feminist parties or whoever they are, nobody was sincere to the common people. Now, I don't want to comment on the past, but just to go forward, I've been always thinking about the same thing that you brought up, that as in the United States, all the states have the autonomy of having their own resources and then contributing a little bit of federal tax to the federal government, and they run our all basic departments, defense and other things. Why can't we have this in Pakistan? Our people are as hardworking, as intelligent. When they come out of Pakistan, they excel at anywhere they go. They are very hardworking, conscientious, ethical people. But why in Pakistan, I think that it's very easy to criticize the military, but we should also criticize the people who don't have any conscience. I'm a born Pakistani, but when I go there, all of us have beautiful houses, but when we go, we come out on the street, we have a pile of rubbish, and because our local municipalities, they never visit that place. So what I'm saying is, let's start constructively. How can we steer these politicians who have been previously, like Nawaz Sharif and Zardari both, to go in the right direction, have a consensus of all the people in tribal areas, in Balochistan, in Sindh, Punjab, frontier, and then really listen to the will of the people, and then formulate their policies and their plan of action without any influence. Of course, they'll have to consider what the outside world wants to do, because everybody will have their own interest. But still, keeping the interest of Pakistan at the same time, how can we proceed further?
Do you want to respond, or it was a comment?
So you talked about the corruption of two politicians. I'm not denying that they are not corrupt, but I will make just one point, which is that nowhere in the world is there a direct relationship between corruption and democracy. Quantitative terms, you'll probably have more corruption there, yet democracy goes on. Democracy or politics is the art of the possible, and what we need to do when we talk about how do we move forward, I think as long as we're willing to believe in having a political process. You quickly, when you talked about why can't we have provincial autonomy? Let me tell you, I'm sure you know it. It's an open secret. It's not even a secret. I think during the 1990s, this was late 1990s. This is before Musharraf took over. We have this economic council, which kind of is a body where all provincial governments are represented, and they kind of discuss resource distribution. And I remember it was the MQM government in Sindh. And at one particular EEC, the MQM government said that, all right, let's do this. Can you concede us this much, that 0.01% of our receipts will be retained by the province? Right? Now the center almost came close to admitting that. Then some smart elegant bureaucrat kindly understood what the game was. Like, damn it. If we concede them the 0.01%, then it basically means that in principle we have agreed that provinces have a right to the receipts. And so it was struck down. Now the reason why this has not happened, one of the major reasons for that is that because we have this huge institution sitting at the top, which controls resources, which has an interest in controlling resources. See, once you have the defense budget, once you have priorities being set, your financial autonomy in all the federating units would play an important role. I'll give you a small narrative. I served as Director of Naval Research for almost about 2 years. We were once doing this restructuring of the Navy. And we did this exercise of, kind of looking at a mission statement, objective, all other things.